Hi, everyone. I am Steven Stoneberg, CFO and COO of Bittrex Global, and the host of our video AMA today. We are very excited to be joined by Alex Mashinsky, CEO of Celsius Network. Thanks for joining us today, Alex. The Bittrex Global team is extremely excited about the partnership we're building with the team at Cell.
Thanks for having me, and we're really excited to launch with you guys.
So on these AMAs, we source a lot of questions from the Bittrex Global and the crypto communities regarding the Cell token listing. So let's dive in. So first off, many of our community members have asked if you could tell us what Celsius Network is, and particularly your mission and vision, and also I think give a bit of your background too.
Sure. So we created the Celsius in 2017, and the mission was to bring 100 million new people into the blockchain. We all basically own coins, everybody on the Celsius team, and we realized that really, if you want to scale this and make Bitcoin or Ethereum a real global platform, you're going to need to bring more than just kind of the noobs or the people who are a little bit excited about the blockchain. And so our mission was to build a platform, build a bridge between the centralized world and the decentralized world. And we decided to focus on yield, right? On creating yield and earning yield in cryptocurrencies. So Celsius was the first company anywhere to offer you Bitcoin on Bitcoin. We pay 6.2%, or you can earn 10.5% on stable coins. And today we support 45 different assets. We've paid over $300 million worth of interest to our 500,000 customers. But you know, a little bit of background about me. I was born in the Ukraine. I was lucky enough to come to the United States right before the internet revolution, when the internet became a public network. And one of my first companies, Arbanet, I wrote the patents and built the first voice over IP gateway, which is now used by probably 4.5 billion people around the planet. We're using VoIP here, and it's not working too well. So I'm embarrassed a little bit with this VoIP non-performance. But Celsius is my 8th startup as a founder, and basically created many companies that all the common theme is taking the power from the monopolies, like the phone companies or the New York subway system, where you couldn't have connectivity. So I put the 4G and 5G and Wi-Fi in the New York subways, and more recently Celsius Network, where we empowering people to basically be able to have a retirement, have a financial plan by earning interest, right? Something that the banks used to do, but they don't do anymore.
Great. So I think the next question that's very helpful. I think the next question from the community, they want to know, so what is the story behind Celsius? Can you tell us about some of your major accomplishments and achievements so far?
So yeah, I mean, you know, what we did is actually pretty simple. I know a lot of people ask me, how did you come up with this idea? And all we've done is basically created yield the same way financial institutions or bank generate yield on Wall Street, but instead of giving all that money to the shareholders, Celsius gives 80% of all that yield to its depositors, to the users, right? And that's where the innovation is. So in 700 years of banking, not a single bank anywhere in the world has ever paid its customers 80% of what it makes out of the money that they deposit in the system. So
usually it's the other way around. The banks take 80% of the clients'
exactly
money, in my experience, right?
And that's true. So here we wanted to make sure that this new invention called the blockchain, the open ledger, we don't take the worst thing out of Wall Street and bring them to the blockchain, but we take the best thing, those secrets of how to make money, how to create yield, bring that to everybody, democratize that to everybody, in the same way that you know, I helped bring voice over IP and make everybody use that basically for free.
So I think it's interesting. I mean, look, it's a very topical, like everybody in crypto, it's like, we're all against, and I'm a former banker myself. So we're all against the horrible bankers. And some of us are, as they say, poachers turned gamekeeper. So, we come from that world. But I think what I noticed in some of your tweeting activity, you're sort of also pointing out that even within the crypto world, it's not all such a level playing field and not everyone is so benevolent. So some of those other providers of what you're doing, who shall remain nameless, of course, unless you wish to name them. So maybe why don't you talk about that angle too, which I think is interesting.
Well, so yeah, so a lot of what happened in the early years of crypto is that people copied exactly what existed on Wall Street. So Wall Street has exchanges, they copied and created exchanges. Wall Street has all kind of arb and trading and so on. They copied that as well, right? And created perpetual swaps and all kind of other tools that may not be necessarily acting in your best interest. So the fees, the basically all of the stuff that exists today is making a lot of people in crypto rich, but it's definitely not helping you, the customer, or helping new people who are joining crypto basically collect and accumulate wealth or create wealth. And if we want this to be a global revolution, and all we're doing is effectively burning new people who are coming in, none of that is acting in our best interest, because really crypto is still competing for all the dollars with the banking system. The competition is not this exchange versus that exchange, or Celsius versus a Compound or whatever. And the competition are all the people that currently use JP Morgan are going to switch and come and use our services.
Okay, good answer. So I guess moving on to the next question from the community, what's your main focus at the moment? Is it developing the product or driving adoption?
Yeah, so we're doing a little bit of both. I think, again, DeFi or DeFi farming is a great tool, but it's very complicated. You need to know everything. You need to know which platforms are safe, how to use this stuff, figure out what the gas fees are, and know when to get out, and impermanent loss, and you name it, right? A million things that if you don't know that cold, and you have to be in front of the screen 24/7 basically to make money. So what we try to do is really hide all that complexity with a simple deposit account where you can just basically put your coins to work. You know that we don't charge any fees, no fees whatsoever, and those coins are basically always earning the maximum possible because you're in a pool. Like we have 82,000 Bitcoins in one pool from which we lend to institutions and exchanges and so on. And the pool earns money, and then you get your pro rata. So those are a much easier and safer way for most people who don't know how to manage keys or how to do farming or anything like that.
Which is fascinating. So to say, like, you're actually earning interest in Bitcoin, which I think to people new to this space don't even understand that. Because I mean, banks are mostly negative interest rates where you actually lose money. I mean, the US hasn't quite gone there yet. It is about to be there. But when you've had negative interest rates in Swiss francs and euros and some other currencies where you actually lose money for keeping money in cash. And here you're earning really high interest, equivalent to a very high interest rate, which is amazing.
Yeah, so we are definitely crypto denominated. So we have now over $13 billion worth of assets. So by far the largest crypto denominated fund, or whatever you want to call it, or aggregate. But again, we act as a pool that acts in the best interest of the community. So I know people are excited about this DeFi pool or that DeFi pool. The largest pool in the world, and the first pool in the world, was the Celsius pool.
So since you've already just alluded to DeFi, which just happens to be our next question. So the DeFi ecosystem is an ever-evolving space. What innovations has Celsius brought and does it plan to bring to the DeFi space, since you mentioned it?
Sure. So I know people, I have a lot of Twitter haters when I say this, but a year and a half before Compound came up with yield or comp, Celsius invented two things. One was yield. We were the first ones to pay yield, Bitcoin on Bitcoin, Ethereum on Ethereum, and so on and so on. And then we invented the idea that you can pay with a token, meaning you can choose to earn Bitcoin on Bitcoin, or you can get extra cell token, right? Which is basically what Comp and Aave and Uniswap and others did about a year and a half later. So we brought a lot of innovation to DeFi. I would say that we also the largest participant in DeFi. We probably not just the largest lender, but also the largest borrower in DeFi at any moment. And we've paid more interest than all the other parties put together. Again, I get a lot of hate mail, but I keep selling people, look, we publish our numbers every week. We tell everybody how much we paid. And the closest competitor we have, which is BlockFi, published that they paid 50 million in interest. We paid over 300 million. So if you measure people by how much they pay their community, which is how I would like to measure people, right? Because it's all about what are you giving back to the community. You mentioned before exchanges. When an exchange like Binance announces, oh, the exchange, or CZ, made $1 billion in profit, that is $1 billion they took from the community. Celsius, on the other hand, says, hey, we've made the community $300 million. We've charged people like Binance and others interest and then gave it to the community.
So it's more like, for those who are familiar in the traditional banking world, it's more like a cooperative bank or a co-op where you're a part owner, not just a depositor in the bank. So you're sharing in some of the, is that the right way to think about it?
Exactly. Like if you go back 50 or 70 years, there were thousands of co-op banks and trust companies that acted in your best interest. And they were the ones who paid for the local basketball court, and they helped the pizza guy, and they gave local mortgages and so on. What happened is that the banking system consolidated so quickly, and banks got to be so large that they don't care about you. I mean, they could care less who you are. Their job is to open. I mean, there was a great Frontline episode where they were digging into Wells Fargo and how they have to open 8 bank accounts every day. That's a quota, and they have to call like everybody, begging people to open accounts. So because they charge these fees on all this stuff. So we can't really live in a world like that, right? I mean, where people who barely finish the month have to pay $20 fees or inactivity fees or ATM fees, you name it, right? Fees upon fees. And I always urge people to look at your December statement, look at your credit card statement, and look at how much fees you've been paying all year to your financial institution, because most of us don't realize how much money, this is our money that we're throwing out of the window that could be earning 10%. That's how you create financial independence. You have your money work for you instead of you work for your money.
So I think what's amazing, so that's amazing how much you're giving back to the community. And I think you've already touched on it, which is sort of the next topic. Transparency is an important topic. So, on an ongoing basis, how are you, what, in addition to the transparency you're already giving with the payouts, how else are you transparent, and how are you providing that for your users in general?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very important piece. And so when people compare us to pure DeFi, right? Because we have one leg in DeFi and one leg in CeFi, right? We kind of tried to build a bridge between those two worlds. But when people compare us to pure DeFi, they say, hey, I can go and audit the smart contract that this or that platform has, and you guys don't allow me to do that. Well, how many people in the world know how to audit a smart contract and know if it's real or not, if there's a bug there or anything like that? So what Celsius has done is basically said, okay, how do we going to allow a layman, somebody who's using Celsius for the first time, to verify that we have funds, that the funds we have actually exist, verify that we earn interest, verify that they got paid the percentage of the pool that they represent. If you're 1% of the pool, did you receive 1% of the interest distribution? And basically make sure that everything we publish is real and correct. So we've taken I would say we invested a lot of time and energy in making sure that our community has full access to the information. For example, if you open our app, we have a community page that shows you in real time how many people are using the platform, how many of them have money on deposits, how much we have in total deposits, how much do we lend out, and so on. And on top of it, we basically use chain analysis and other platforms to audit or validate what we are doing, right? So we did a snapshot when we had 3.3 billion. More recently, we did another snapshot at 10 billion. That's every 6 months. That's how fast we're growing. In 6 months, we went from 3.3 to 10 billion. And now we're at, again, over 13. And we're launching together with the Horizon blockchain, we're launching what we call proof of community, where in real time, with zero proof, basically, you'll be able to verify your percentage of the pool, meaning you can take your public key, put it into this search engine, and it will automatically tell you, okay, this is what your percentage of the pool is. This is what you should get, and you can go and check in your wallet to see if you earn that amount. So that kind of transparency that allows any layman to leverage the blockchain to validate that Celsius is acting in their best interest is a great example of basically democratizing DeFi versus today, where it's really like this hush-hush club of people that know how to code and are expert in Solidity.
Yes, I agree with those comments. So that was a good answer. Thank you. So moving on, the next question, we received a lot of questions actually on the topic of governance. So maybe you could talk about how governance works in relation to the Celsius network.
Yeah, so traditional companies, DeFi companies, really use governance to hide away from regulators, right? So basically, they don't want regulators to come and say, hey, this is a security. Whatever you're giving all these users is a security because of the Howey test. And they're basically calling the token a governance token. So Celsius, when we created the company, we basically didn't know if Cell token is a security or not. So we went to the SEC and filed a Reg D exemption. And basically, we through that exemption, we were allowed to raise the funds and create the Cell token and continue operating. So as it relates to governance, again, I'm yet to see real governance being used through the community. As an example, we were trying to vote Cell token into one of the pools. We had sufficient votes. And despite the governance having to approve Cell to be included, or Celsius to be included in the pool, powers to be decided to override the governance, override the community's votes. So really, is it real governance? Is it not real governance? So I think I would love to look. I was born in a communist country, and I came to the land of the free here in the United States. And I would love to tell you that governance is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But unfortunately, today most projects use governance just to hide away from the Howey test.
Okay, well, it's good that you got the clarity on that, because that's something you don't want to have your token holders find that there's some problems with the SEC down the road, like some other projects. So the next question from the community, scalability. So that's a really important facet in the crypto space, particularly for privacy-focused cryptocurrencies. What scalability measures have been implemented in designing Celsius?
Yeah, so if you look at DeFi projects, they really just live inside the Ethereum network. Most DeFi lives in Ethereum. Some of it, obviously, there are other chains that are trying to create similar things, but Celsius really operates on many different domains. So we lend to institutions, we lend to exchanges, we lend to DeFi, but we also lend to retail users in the real world. We're using fiat and other type of instruments. And really, we had to build much more infrastructure than a traditional or upcoming DeFi projects. So both from a security standpoint, where we use two different MPC companies, multi-party computation, as well as other infrastructure. Celsius has been very resilient. As you've seen, many other projects kind of go up and down, having issues, having hacks. Celsius never had a hack. We use 14 different blockchains. We have more smart contract than most people in DeFi, but we never had a hack because we spend much more time kind of testing and validating everything. And again, today with more assets than anyone else, I can tell you that Celsius is the safest place to deploy your assets.
Great. And so what are your plans to educate people on Celsius and drive adoption in the community? I mean, it's such a great topic and great product. And how are you going to raise more awareness of this?
Yeah, so we do a lot of educational stuff. I do an AMA every Friday, 1 o'clock. If you want to go on YouTube and search for Celsius Network. So we do a 2-hour long Q&A every week. We issue 4 or 5 videos every day, over every other day, about different topics, trying to educate the community. So all these things are things that we invest in because we want to both convince the skeptics as well as educate the new users about trusting this infrastructure and kind of pulling away from the old banking system so you can unbank yourself. So I'm not saying
I need one of those T-shirts, by the way. That's great. I've already unbanked myself. I used to work for banks, not anymore. I'm crypto.
We'll definitely trade one. So we look. A lot of other people do a great job also educating. Obviously Coinbase and some of the other companies. You guys do a great job. I know a lot of. I see a lot of content from you guys as well. So I think as a whole, we are definitely a very talkative and communicative industry compared to like banks, right? Banks almost like hide from you. They don't want you to know anything about how they do things or where they do things. Just give me your money and don't ask any questions. That's the attitude that most banks have.
I agree with that. Unfortunately for the banks, they're sort of having, I call it the financial services industry is having their Amazon moment now. So they're finally, with crypto and blockchain, it's just going to totally compete with them. So in the same vein, on the last question, some users are asking, what are your plans for global adoption? I guess how are you going to roll this out everywhere?
So today, just under 40% of our users are Americans. And so we actually are a global company. We operate in over 200 different countries. And most of our growth is coming from outside the United States. Obviously, there are countries, we are fully compliant. So for example, we block our services in Japan and other countries where the local governments decreed that something that we do, for example, requires a license or we should not provide that service. But we plan to basically open these services or get licenses worldwide. So I think as the regulation kind of clarifies and becomes more unified worldwide, it's going to get easier and easier for companies like Celsius or Bittrex Global to basically provide these services. I think crypto in general is becoming much more prevalent and more people are demanding that from their service providers. So we're seeing a lot of inbound inquiries from banks, financial institutions who are saying, okay, I want to add your services. How do I do that, right? And as an example, we just launched with GMO in Japan, where we are starting to issue stable coins and other services, as well as other partners. We launched with Line Japan. So these are giant companies. Line is twice as big as PayPal. I know a lot of people are excited by PayPal, but Line has twice as many users, 680 million users worldwide. So these are the type of partnership that really scale and enable a very large set of users to come into crypto. And if those people come and buy coins, your coins, my coins are becoming more valuable.
Great. So this has been super exciting. I think it's such a great project, and we're really happy that you've listed with Bittrex Global. But to close out, and again, the last question from our community, what does the future look like for Celsius, and what are your upcoming plans and priorities?
Yeah, so we're accelerating. It's moving faster and faster. It's amazing that you can give so much to your community, and you can do good and do well at the same time. Who knew that if you gave so much to your customers, you could also do so well? So I think that our job is really to continue innovate, continue creating more products, continue to deliver for the community. We have, again, 500,000 people worldwide who rely on our interest to pay their bills, to get their kids through college, finish the week. And we love the fact that we're helping people worldwide with this adoption. Again, we love our partnership with you guys. We have a trading competition, right? So we have a bunch of cell tokens that we'll be giving out as well. So we're really excited to see who the winners are.
We do too. So Alex, thank you so much for joining us today for this AMA. It's been great chatting with you, learning more about Celsius Network, and I'm sure everyone who's listening in will have found this really useful. If our listeners want to learn more about Celsius Network, please go to https://Celsius, CELSIUS.network. Thank you again, Alex.
Thanks for having me.